So what can you do to stay afloat in America, or other Western countries for that matter, particularly Europe and stuff like that, with the way China's doing everything? Well, time for a bit of entrepreneurial wizardry. You need to look at markets in China. What would they buy that you have? And you say, well, nothing, because we just buy all the stuff they make. Think again. What we've realised here in Australia is any resources or raw materials they will buy, such as steel, coal, natural gas, and we're sending enormous amounts of them to China. We, here in Australia and Brazil, and now there's mines in Africa that are opening too, are almost, just between us and Brazil, we're almost solely fueling China. And you know what keeps Australia afloat. Yeah, so any raw materials or resources like that, they're interested in, because you can't make all these products with absolutely nothing whatsoever. But of course, they want it for dramatically low prices, and they're now going to Africa to get a lot of this stuff, and that's sort of undercut us a bit. Because Africa, oh man, if you ever thought Chinese work for nothing, you got to go to Africa. And if you don't get shot and killed in the first couple of weeks, you'll find out how low Africans will work for. This is one of the reasons why South Africa got off to such a great thing, was not because of the gold and the diamonds alone, but because of the cheap labour as well, which, you know, benefited, shall we say, those who utilised it. But there's another thing that's happening over there, and that is middle class and upper class. They realise in China that Chinese products are shit. They know that. Henceforth, there is a real lust for high quality products. It is sort of fashionable to have westernised cars, or literally Western cars, particularly, you know, ridgy-dig Mercedes-Benzes, you know, and they got fake Mercedes-Benzes, I've seen them. I think BYD manufactures one, or used to manufacture one, which is the thing that Warren Buffett and associates own, BYD. It's they do a lot of other things other than cars, but and also wine. We've noticed here with my father in the wine industry and a lot of other people in the wine industry around where I live. If you've got a real top-notch wine, they'll buy that as well. Anything that's really high-class westernised, they are interested to buy. So Europeans who make high-quality goods, keep this in mind, because that may be your lifeline. The largest buyer of Ferraris is now China. They buy 40% of all new Ferraris manufactured. If you want an idea of what China's going to go like in the future, look at how Hong Kong is now and Hong Kong's past that has led it up to where it is now. If you go to Hong Kong, you'll see they are crazy on really high-class stuff, Louis Vuitton, Rolls-Royce, all this sort of stuff. But if you got your finger in that pie, you've got a chance that you're going to survive. If you make these high quality products. But, you know, especially if it's established brand names that are well known, like Rolls-Royce, like Mercedes-Benz, you've got a hope. There's another thing I probably should mention, which you may want to sort of factor into your thoughts in all this, and it's whispers that we're getting here from mainland Chinese who have moved to Australia, of whom, you know, I sort of know and have worked with one or two of them. And it's sort of, you know, reached you know, a small. If you've been listening, you'll know this yourself. You know, if you've got a bit to do with people who have recently left the Chinese mainland and immigrated, and that is, there's a bit of a fear in mainland China that these people who have been working like dogs for the last 10 years making all these cheap products have basically got a little bit sick of seeing their boss turn up with 3 different cars and his wife have a car of her own and blah, 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 while they're slaving it out in the factory. And there's a bit of a fear amongst middle-class Chinese that there will be some sort of an uprising or a strike or some sort of an ass-kicking or revolt involving these Chinese workers who have done all the hard yards for heaps of years building all this cheap stuff, only to make their bosses rich, and they reckon they're going to crack the shits, and there's a bit of an underlying fear that, you know, when's it going to happen, is it going to happen, how's it going to go down, because, you know, these people flogging it out, they realise that they may be getting a raw deal when they see their boss turning up in new cars and that. So that may be something to factor in. Oh, there's another thing too. I used to be able to say the phrase of it. I've forgotten how it's said. They've got what they call little empress, and these are the people who are like 19 to 22-ish years old, late teens, early 20s. You know, it's really the ones that are lower than 25 years old. There's become known what's called little emperors, and basically they're spoiled teenage brats of these wealthy Chinese who have sort of gotten everything they want and blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure you've seen heaps of people like that in America and Europe as well. And there's, you know, a few of them here too. But a lot of corporations are waking up on these people, and they're making stuff, marketing it towards these people, these children in their early 20s of wealthy Chinese. And I've seen ones who are into black rappers and this and that, and they're very consumeristic, love all the new things, love the fashion, you know, all this fashionable stuff, all this cool stuff. They're all into that in a big way, and that is a real growing market. And there's some American corporations who have stood up and taken notice and said, we've got to make a point of trying to exploit this market, because these blokes like black rappers, or like to, you know, act and pretend like black rappers and consume any product related to black rappers. And, you know, keep that one in mind too, because you know, while you might want to be a rapper, I don't know what sort of people are watching this, but if you're in Detroit and you want to be a rapper, forget trying to break into the American market. If you can break into the Chinese market, and that, you really got to hope. But they might not all be into black rappers, but they're sort of, you know, it's the same sort of thing, you know, like these spoiled rich kids of Americans and that who, you know, they're into all this fashionable, cool stuff. So that's another way if you can tap into that market. But what you really got to do, as my entrepreneurial spirit says, is look for things. And it doesn't, just don't go looking for the traditional crap. Look for real niche markets, and there'll be a real whacked areas that there are things that the Chinese will buy en masse from you, and some of these things you can make a real tidy profit on, but they're only in specific places. They may not be things that the West or people in the West would be interested in buying, but if you go flaming looking inside out and back to front, and all up the strange nooks and crannies and whatnot, you'll find that there is things that the Chinese will buy that you may not have seen because you're thinking too much like a white man or a black man. But, you know, look hard and you'll be surprised that while there won't be enough stuff to employ the whole of America, you may be able to save your skin if you know what the Chinese are interested in buying. But be aware that Chinese businessmen, you know, they aren't stupid. They're very cunning. They can be very dodgy. They've got a little stunt they do over here, and that is order something. This has come from agriculture people who are selling wheat to them, I think. That they'll order something, and they'll wait till the ship's 2 weeks off the shore, and then they'll cancel the order, and the cost of you sending it back is astronomical. And then they're assuming that they'll get it for next to nothing. They'll have people at the ports who turn up and pick it up and take it away to their warehouse, even though they've already cancelled the order, because your name has, you know, you're put them on the paperwork for picking it up. So be very wary of them doing this crap where you send a ship full of stuff over and it gets cancelled before it gets there, but then they pick up the delivery anyway. They recommend getting the money before you send it and stuff like this. I didn't watch too much of the interview of this agricultural bloke, but yeah, he was a big mover and shaker in selling wheat and other sort of agriculture products, you know, food products basically, to the Chinese. But there's a few things that, you know, it wouldn't be too stupid to ask people who have dealt with the Chinese before you go on any big ventures, because you may get screwed for hundreds of thousands. But yeah, they are cunning, so make no bones about it, and that's one of the reasons why they're going to take over the world, because they're not stupid. But there are things, high quality products and whatnot, where you do have a chance. I've also seen them get screwed majorly by Chinese who are citizens or permanent residents here. On holiday tours over here, they charge them $120 for a 15-minute bus drive down to see the beach for 3 hours, and then charge them $120, $150 just to see that. So tourism is another one. But you'll need someone on the ground in China who speaks Chinese to get them, and then you'll have a chance to show them around, you know, your part of the world or whatever. But yeah, the Chinese rip off Chinese too, and you see that here with some of the Chinese tourism ran by Chinese operators in Australia. But yeah, that's a few thoughts on how you may be able to keep your head above water if the Chinese take over a lot of economics, which they already have.